got a recipe for you today that combines quite a few of my favorite things. Got a couple of tweaks for you though. So it is a chili crab recipe, but I'm gonna be pairing it with some indigenous greens. So if you're not familiar with what our beautiful native greens have on offer, I've got 3 to showcase for you today. And that way, when you're at your local markets, you can start to recognize them and try them for yourself. So I thought I'd give you a little bit of a hint how to prepare your crabs. I'm gonna use blue swimmers. We've got the carapace on the bottom here. We're just gonna release that little section there, put our thumb or nail under that. So we're just going to pull that back towards ourselves. So you can sort of start to slip your thumb under there. Now we want to remove all of these gills, the crab's gills that act as a filtration system for the crab. So I'm gonna remove all of those. They're not pleasant to eat. If you want to do it at that point, you could give it a bit of a rinse. So you could do this with a cleaver or any knife that has a nice heel on it. So straight down the middle there, it's already got a nice division for us to know about. And we're just gonna put a little bit of pressure on and cut through both of those sides. Now I want to keep the claw kind of together, and I'm gonna give it one of those little legs there. So we've got a little bit of break in this crab, which is totally fine. And then through there again. So we've just quartered our crab. And then for our big claw, we're just gonna use the back of our knife to give it a few taps across there so that the sauce and the heat can get into the crab flesh, because this is going to be a little bit harder to penetrate than the section of flesh that is open to the heat. This sometimes also negates the need for a crab crusher or a claw crusher. So if you don't have one of those, you can still get into your seafood, because we've already given it a head start. Now, if you're buying blue swimmer crabs green, so to speak, which means they are raw, you'll get a variety of colors in there. You will see those beautiful blue shades, especially in the darker tones of your crab. So I'm gonna get our wok nice and hot, put some peanut oil in there. Want to get a little bit of sauce happening in here. Some salted black beans, which are kind of acting as a seasoning as well as a texture. And then we've got some ginger, some garlic and chili. I'm gonna actually add a little bit more of our homemade chili sauce. So the recipe for this one's on our website, just to make it a little saucier and to increase the vibrancy of that red color in this dish. Gonna give that a bit of a stir fry. And then we'll add our onion. Now I've got 3 different indigenous greens today. So I've got a salt bush, which are these beautiful leaves in here. So I've left some on the stalk for you. So it sort of grows like that, and it grows very well, very drought resistant. So you can deep fry these and get a really beautiful crispy garnish. We're gonna pop our leaves into a variety of softened greens for this dish. So we've got some nice heat all through there now. So I'm actually gonna start to add some of our other sauce ingredients, because as I said, we wanna be able to give these crabs a little bit of steam as well. So we've got some Chinese wine. Now I'm just going to let that rapidly simmer until it's sort of reduced by about 1/4 to 1/2 before I add some sesame oil, some black vinegar, and some soy. That Chinese cooking wine has got a beautiful glossiness. It's thickening up. It's softening the other flavors that we've got in there. So I'm going to add our other ingredients now. So we've got some black vinegar, some sesame oil, some soy. So I'm using a gluten-free one here so that I can enjoy it. You use your favorite one. So our crabs are cooked through. It probably took 6 to 8 minutes with this volume on this level heat, but if you had a bigger wok, a bigger flame, 5 minutes might be plenty. Just continue to toss them I'm gonna remove them from the heat so that we can prepare our sauce and our greens. So you can see the color change in the shells. There's a few bits that have broken off. Even easier access to that delicious crab flesh. I'm just gonna take the majority of this sauce and pour it over there. So we're gonna start with the sauce. So we've got a little bit more peanut oil. We've got some more garlic and some more chili. Now, even though we've got a big wok here, we're sort of going to half steam, half fry these greens. And I'm gonna start with the most robust, which is our salt bush. We're then gonna move on to our samphire, which is this guy here. It sort of looks like sea asparagus, tiny little asparagus spears. Now, raw, they're quite salty and maybe even a little bit astringent if you haven't tried them before. But once they're cooked, they sort of go salty and bright and even quite juicy on the inside. So we'll go saltbush, samphire, and then our final is warrigal greens, which is sort of an indigenous spinach or a version of spinach. I'm gonna add some vegetable stock. So it's gonna steam up a little bit. So I want to start to reduce this. Now I want this to be a little bit sweet. So I'm going to add some stevia at this point. If you would prefer not to have any sweetness, that's perfectly okay. And then I'm going to add a little bit more of our black vinegar. I'm happy with that where it is now, so I'm going to add our saltbush leaves, which, as I said, they can take a little bit more cooking. If you ever see saltbush lamb on a menu, because they've been eating this, and so their flesh is actually flavored with that. You can see the color changing of the saltbush. It's softening up there. It is quite salty, so we'll pop our samphire in. I'm gonna give that a couple stirs and then we'll add our warrigal greens. Beautiful, vibrant. Again, I'm not overcooking these. I want them to be just as I would regular spinach or asparagus or broccolini. Just al dente, still got a little bit of bite. So we'll sort of break those up a little bit. I'm happy to serve them with the stalk. Some people may prefer to eat them without the stalk. So if you wanted to strip all of the leaves, you can. We're gonna soften them slightly in here. It'll also make for easy presentation, and seeing as we're using our hands already for our crab, just gonna give that a toss through. So I'm happy with where our greens are at. So I'm going to place them on the bottom of our plate. Spread them out a little because we're going to be putting the crab on top and you want to be able to see a bit of everything. Just going to really quickly return our crab to the heat. We'll just give it a couple of toss-throughs. So our crab is heated through. Happy to do a really nice big pile of all of those pieces in the middle, so that you can see a little bit of everything. You can sort of show the underside of the crab where it's a little paler in color, and then some more of those more orange pieces or more red pieces. There's our modern Australian Chinesey crab and indigenous greens. Enjoy.